We are oceans, reduced to shallow creeks. Something finds me in the long quiet and brings me the gift of a fragile vessel. She asks that I tell you to remember her. You won't.
You're on a path in the woods, and at the end of that path is a cabin, and in the basement of that cabin is a princess. You're here to slay her. If you don't, it will be the end of the world. I'm talking about the end of everything as we know it. No more birds, no more trees, and perhaps most problematically of all, no more people. You have to put an end to her.
And there you are. Are you here to kill me or something? You poor thing. Your hands are shaking. Are you scared of me? Because you should be. I'm probably chained up in this basement for a reason, right? And if that knife is the only weapon you have, you'll have to get close enough to use it. You put up more of a fight than I thought you would. But I have to wonder, do you really think this is the end?
Slay the Princess is a game made by Black Tabby Games and was released in October of 2023. The game was phenomenal and praised for its outstanding visual style, incredible voice acting, amazing writing, and an amazing soundtrack. As of right now, the game sits at a perfect price of $18, or a casual $28 if you're like me and bought the supporters pack so you could definitely not simp for your favorite waifu. The game styles itself as a choose-your-own-ending game / visual novel. Because of this, nearly every choice you make greatly affects the story and how your game will end. And because of that, this video hopes to explain the main quote-unquote story and canon, as well as its lore and various endings and themes. Spoiler warning, as I will be taking an in-depth look at each of the endings, and if you want the best possible experience, I recommend going in blind. And with that, you begin your journey on a path in the woods. And at the end of that path is a cabin, and in the basement of that cabin is a princess. Your goal is not only spelled out to you as the name of the game, but is also told to you by a voice called the narrator. Now stab the bitch. The next voice in your fractured psyche, and who will constantly bicker with the narrator, is called the voice of the hero. He seems to be the more pragmatic side of yourself, as he fully puts his trust in the player and their choices, for the most part. He acts as a second guide throughout the game, wherein the narrator and him come into conflict. He holds fast that the best choice for you to make is the choice that you want, and for you to make choices for yourself, not for the others who try to persuade you. However, your time has run out, so you go to the cabin, grab the knife, and as you make your way down the stairs, she speaks to you. Her voice is cold and distrusting.
Who's there?
When you are face to face with her, she scoffs at you, thinking, how could a person like you be here to kill her?
She sounds dangerous. It's almost as if she's the one in charge down here.
She refuses to answer most of your questions, as all she really gives you is that her name is the Princess, and that she doesn't know who imprisoned her or why. However, because she hasn't given you a reason not to, and because the narrator has mentioned that if she should escape, she would end the world, you then stab her without any less conversation, without a moment's hesitation. You then walk away with a smile on your face, for a job well done, so you can receive your reward. But your reward, as ever so graciously given to you by the narrator, is you, eternally stuck in an endless void with nothing but your own thoughts. Yippee! So, you do what any logical person would and go grab the knife from the princess's now decayed and bony corpse.
Calcium.
You then proceed to stab yourself directly in the heart to escape your eternal prison, much to the narrator's chagrin and hatred. But as you lay there bleeding and thinking back for a moment, you ponder something the princess said to you before she died.
You put up more of a fight than I thought you would. But I have to wonder, do you really think this is the end?
Before everything goes black and you die. You immediately reawaken to find yourself back on the same path in the woods that you initially found yourself on. Of course, if you haven't already caught on, you're now in a time loop. Or, well, you think you are, as reality has reset. Not even the narrator remembers who you are, or how you got here, or if that you've been here before. Or, at least, that's what he says. But you could tell he's a lying fuck and you know it. Now give me your secrets, bitch boy! But since we sadly can't interrogate the omnipresent voice in our head, and we instead have to silently proceed to the cabin. And when we arrive, well, the changes are apparent. With peeling wallpaper, a near rundown and abandoned look, which is arguably still better than any men's bathroom you can find along the road, you continue to walk around and explore the cabin, while also insisting that the narrator who straight up doesn't believe you that the princess is just dead in the basement, since, well, she has to be alive since you've never been here before. But he's an idiot, and you know that, so his opinion doesn't matter. But someone's voice who does matter is yours. And by yours, I mean a new voice that is now lingering within your head. This voice is called the voice of the cold, and as his name suggests, he's a complete and total non-feeling psychopath. He shuts off every emotion on a whim, much like me when I unleash my inner Anakin.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
A child? I can't do that. Come on, man. That's not okay. I can't kill a child.
After a while of arguing and ignoring this brand new voice, on the way to the door, you decide to not take the blade. At least, you know, to try to make up for what's happened. The stairs seem to be just as old and abandoned as the main cabin floor, with the paper rotting off the wall, and the wooden panels seeming themselves to be rotten and ancient. When you finally enter the basement, you look over and see the princess's still rotting corpse. Huh. That's strange. I swear there was more to this. Oh, what the hell?
Oh, hi!
I mean, Casper here seems pretty friendly. I mean, just look at that face. Isn't that face just scream trustworthy? Well, after talking with her for a bit more, you come to the conclusion that she very much remembers you murdering her in cold blood, and she's willing to forgive you, but only if you let her possess your body for a bit. Because she's just, really quirky that way. She's not like other girls. After you, for whatever reason, agree to this, well, she makes a passing comment about your warped psyche. Right before forcefully having to move your body up the stairs as the cold, stinging pain and exhaustion and weight of her possession takes hold of you, you eventually manage to get your way to the door, where, as you open it, you're greeted by the void that once trapped you. It has returned, but this time as it makes its appearance, the narrator vanishes right as the ghost leaves your body. The joy in her eyes as she's so happy that you freed her from her prison, that she's so happy to be finally free of just whatever she was in, to no longer be trapped or contained. But the moment doesn't last, as you watch as something else takes her away. Right as you enter the void, you see a mirror. And within that mirror's reflection, you see the fuggliest thing that you've ever seen. Yourself. You then are immediately back on the path to the cabin. However, this time the world is more barren and empty, and this world being appropriately named the Long Quiet. As you walk up to the cabin, you'll see a couple things are different now, as everything else is still fabric-y and static, a never-ending black void. But you see the princess standing there. As you get closer, well, you could see that the princess is now something different, with something else using her body more as a puppet. As you talk with her, she suggests that you two are similar, yet different in your own ways. Yet both of you were once oceans with great depth, now dried out to nothing more. While we will talk more about that specific point later, she then gives you the ultimate task of the game and tells you to bring her different vessels and perspectives, as you will illuminate her in different ways. For she sends you back and makes you forget.
She asks that I tell you to remember her. You won't.
Alright, now that we've given you the basic idea of what the hell is going on and kept you thoroughly entertained because the watch time hungers, let's go over the different princesses that you can meet and the horrible fates that await you on your path. So let's start with by far the funniest ending, and in my opinion, the second best. Though do keep in mind, at this point, if I bring up anything about lore or story, then this is my own interpretation and theory. Nothing, as stated by the game, is canon. The Razor Princess is found, like most of the other princesses, by repeating certain steps with slight changes. For the Razor, you would like to follow the same steps that you took to get to the Spectre, except, you do what a dumbass does and check that bitch's pulse. Ta-da! You did it! You've met the Razor Princess. And, well, she's an interesting one, as, she stabbed you. A lot. Because the cabin is now covered in sharp and pointy edges, and as you enter the basement, you hear the sweet sound of grinding metal. So, obviously, you need to see why. I think why I personally find this ending so funny is, well,
A knife? What are you talking about? I don't have a knife. Where would I keep a knife? And why would I stab you to death? I don't know you. You haven't given me a reason to stab you to death. It would be so silly of me to cut you open and look at your insides.
Just look at her. So obviously lying to you. It's just great. On top of that, out of every princess, she is like the only one who is not backed into a corner, and instead standing readily open in a long, jagged corridor. And she promises that all of her secret spots are not sharp and knife-free. Conversation with her, as you might guess, is kind of just worthless, as you try to get her to admit her little lie, so you decide to be a real American and just stab first and ask questions later, but promptly you get skewered with a blade that she had hidden in her femur. Because, that's not bullshit in the slightest. Each and every single princess has their own story to tell, with each story concluding at the end of that chapter, with either two things happening. Because you either watch them get taken away by mishands, or, well, you kind of just die. When you die and move on, you'll move to another chapter, which erases it from the narrator's memory, like I mentioned previously, and nobody else's, with a new voice being happily added to your fractured psyche to guide you along with the next chapter. Each chapter 3 or more will usually a hard double down on what you saw previously. Even the design of the princesses will usually alter pretty dramatically when you see her next. So you can see from here on now that she looks more angular and sharp. You're then presented with a couple of, oh my god, I'm gonna die, options, and clearly the best choice is to flirt with her and then give her the look. After being flirted with, she'll do what any new lover should, and kill you as romantically as possible. Such a charmer she is. Here, you're then brought back for some reason, then killed again, and again, and again. Clearly we're winning here. Then Chapter 4 bails you out, where you're now seeing everything even more angular and sharp, with the world you've been brought back to. But this is nothing compared to the horrors that await you in the basement. As you enter, she talks about how she truly believes she killed you for good, but it seems it didn't take. See, the princess is one thing that you didn't know, and that's, well, she's very much like William Afton. Well,
I always come back.
But she was like, nah-uh, and then proceeded to take her final form, with her body erupting in a sharp, razor-filled visage. All the voices in your head proceed to freak out. But since they have too many conflicting ideas,
What just happened?
you decide to silence them.
It's so quiet.
And even silencing the narrator. Anyways, it's just you now. The princess and the lingering romantic tension before you enter your final battle, with the monstrosity of blades and sharp edges clashing, where you both land fatal blows to one another. However, before you die, you watch as the shifting mound takes her. The razor was many things, a being of cruelty and joy, but she'll make for an indomitable heart. One thing I want to mention in pretty much every chapter is they'll have an inverse. Well, but I would say something similar in power and maybe a mirrored personality. I mean, let's take a look at two princesses I have covered so far. Examples being the Spectre and the Razor. You can look at both of these characters, and, well, you'll notice that they're meant to be kind of jokey, kind of adorable, and a character with a more childlike demeanor until the demeanor is then dropped and replaced with something more hostile. The two chapters also present a theme that's more common throughout the game that I personally like to phrase as, I think, therefore it is. Remember this because I'm going to talk more about it later. Alright, so on to the next princess I want to talk about, which is... and her chapter 3. The witch can be seen by not grabbing the knife and trying to save her, only for you to, at the last possible minute, stab her in the back. This leads you to a cabin overgrown with wood and moss. However, the world and around it is looking less like a cabin in the woods and more like a secluded cave in the swamp. When you face this princess, the first thing you'll see is that, well, she's a cat girl. I just want to take this time to mention this game's Steam reviews. Clearly there is no correlation. This princess is more crafty and sassy. Her personality reflects your betrayal, and she very much wants vengeance. You try your best to talk things over, but it won't go far with that knife in your hand. And once you mention the chain loosely placed on her arm, well, you can see her slip out of it with ease. Because you don't really see a way out of this, and you feel bad for stabbing her, right? So, in your eyes, there's only one way to get out of this. Well, first, you flirt with her.
What do you think happens now?
What happens now is I hit you with the rhythm.
And then you give her the knife. With this, you can see her want and need for vengeance take over, as she stabs you and laughs over your dying corpse, gloating at how you let her do this to you. But right as you begin to black out and bleed, you can see regret and guilt take hold over her mind as she questions why on earth you let her do this, knowing full well she would probably kill you. Then you're taken to chapter 3. Personally, one of my favorite chapters.
Let's go! Ah! I almost fell out of my chair.
Thorn is one of the more emotional chapters that you can come across. The princess is in a burned out cabin that's surrounded by thorny roses and vines that are lining the basement walls, holding the princess in place with the thorns digging into her skin as she holds the dagger you gave her last time. She looks at you with hopeless, mistrusting eyes. She understands that you've both hurt each other, and it's gotten you nowhere.
Let it go.
Your mistrust of one another has to end, so you convince her that she should give you back the dagger, and that there is no more hate or animosity between you. Unless you're an asshole and pick the worst options, in which case, if you hurt her...
You got it, boss!
So, you prove her faith in you, and you cut her out from the vines that contain her, because you made the obvious choice and flirted with her last time. Now, you also have the option to dissuade that mistrust and hatred as you turn it into something more, as you may kiss her to show your passion for one another before you're both ready to face the world and leave the cabin. However,
Where's everything going? Why is it so cold?
as always, she too was taken by the shifting mound, making for her new heart. The Thorn and Witch represent a lot within the context of the story. They, at least in my interpretation of the story, represent the ever-long cycle that the princess and yourself have been locked in. As the cycle continues again and again, you're taken back to the shifting mound to begin again at chapter 1. To fight or flee. When someone faces a threat, this inner instinct will activate no matter what. You're given an option to fight your way out of it or to turn and run away should you fear that the threat is too great for yourself. This is an instinct that takes control of you when you see the gnawed-off hand of the princess and decide the only option is to run away and lock her in the basement. You try your best to keep her locked away, but her monstrous tone and the banging at the door, you know she won't be contained for long. Yet you keep watch of her anyways, and drift into unconsciousness. You know, as you do. When you awake, you see the door is now ajar, with the table holding it shut now off to the side. The cabin is in darkness, but within the dark, you see her, floating. Her eyes hollow, staring at you, and she's ready to break you for leaving her down there. Each step, you can feel your body freezing, every moment becoming impossible. With terror, as you turn it into shock, her mere presence stops you from focusing and breathing. It's suffocating. Until you feel your heart stop.
Your lungs stop drawing in breath, and your heart freezes in your chest. Everything goes dark, and you die.
This time, the cabin is only slightly different. When you enter, you see the distant shadows of the princess watching you from the windows, as a black void fills the doorframe down to the basement. Eyes watching you from the darkness as you are unable to escape her gaze. Yet further you descend into the dwelling, like prey descending into the lair of a predator. You are met with a choice between paths, but not before she taunts you.
I wouldn't give it too much thought if I were you. It doesn't really matter, because either way you go, I'm going to find you.
So you make your choice.
You turn to the right. A faintly outlined path lies before you.
She was right.
There you are. I told you I was going to find you.
At the end of the path, you see her.
As the princess
She
approaches,
pulls you in closer. You feel your legs go numb. The closer she gets, the more she taunts you. You can feel less and less of yourself as all of movement in your body ceases.
It's almost like you want me to get you. I wonder how many times I'll get to play with you before you break.
as your blood begins to coagulate, it's as if every part of your being is coming to a lurching halt.
Heart, lungs, liver, nerves. Heart, lungs, liver, nerves. Heart, lungs, liver, nerves.
Your lungs pull in a desperate gulp of air as your eyes shoot back open.
You jolt awake to meet your nightmare face to face.
Can't decide what you want to do, can you? Oh well, standing there gasping like a fish is more fun than dead, even if you look ridiculous.
She isn't attacking us. Why?
The Nightmare is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the best written princesses in the game. She's literally the embodiment of fear and terror. Every movement she makes, every line she says, is all designed to be that of a horror monster. And simply put, I love it. You made her this way, and you put all of your fear into her. Because of that, she became what you only fear to dream of.
I tried to leave while you suffocated, but that stupid cabin wouldn't let me. So I started to drag your body out with me, and then, well, you died before I could get to the door. And then I was here, and now you're here too. I don't think I can move without you, and dead doesn't count. And as much as I love what we have going on, I have bigger plans than tormenting one poor little creature forever. I want to leave.
You can't move, and she won't set you free. So, you can only remain with your nightmare.
You poor, poor thing. Wrong choice. You're always going to be a coward.
Heart, lungs, liver. Like a creeping mold, the complete reality of your existence threads its way through your mind. Birth, death, birth again, decay and bloom, a million stitches from a million microscopic wounds you've inflicted on everyone you've ever met, with every muscle you've moved and every word you've ever spoken. No, 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 no.
Let me out.
Your existence hurts them.
Let me out.
A lonely soul in a room by itself, weeping. It lives for 80 years and then it's gone. And then it's there again.
Let me out.
A reprieve. A good life. Love. Children. A steady career. Recognition from your peers. Here one moment. Gone the next. The worms have found their orifices.
Let me out.
Diagnosis. It forgets everything it is. Anger, rage, distance, poverty. The lonely soul is lonely again. Love turns to mockery. It dies. It is reborn. Worse. Lonelier.
Let me out.
No, 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 no. No, no. What's happening to us?
Let me out.
This is all too much. I can't keep going. You can't keep going? Well, what are you talking about?
Oops, I think I broke you. I'll see you soon. You'll know what to do.
Before you gain clarity. Clarity, for most, it may be a moment where you finally understand your current state of mind on a situation. For others, it may be a sudden realization. Or for some guys, it may be on December 1st. Either way, you've now reached your moment of clarity. After what may be a week, months, or years, you arrive back at the cabin as it floats in hollow space. Every voice has returned to you, all thinking as one on how to get out of the scenario. Specifically, the voice of the cold tends to lead as his voice is unfeeling on opinion. When you enter the cabin, all you see is the blade stuck in the dirt. You realize just how long you've been here as multiple options are grayed out, the only option being left being to, well, take the blade. After all, you have tried everything else. But as you reach for the blade, the ground gives way. An empty, dark hole begins to form, in which the blade falls ever so far into. However, deep within the depths, you can see her staring back at you. She blinks closer and closer to you, climbing up with different hands disjointed from her body like a puppet. All you can do is take her hand and let her out, until she too is taken by the shifting mound, making for another one of her hearts. Back at the same old cabin in the same old woods as you begin your route again. This time, however, you decide to fight and then immediately give up because, yeah, she's better than you and what did you expect? You awaken in the new chapter. Welcome to the tower. The cabin is completely changed from the outside and from the outside it looks like the cabin has always been this. However, the moment you enter, you are greeted by a massive room made of stone brick and a large gate leading to the staircase. And in place of a table, there's now just a large altar or bookcase. You climb your way up the altar to reach the blade. You then make your way down these giant-ass stairs. Like, who made this? Why? What's wrong with you? Who hurt you? Why must you give me the pain of the back? Ah! Okay, I think I'm... okay. Oh, wait, no. Ow. Everything hurts. When you finally tumble your way to the bottom of the stairs, you come face to face with her. The princess is now an 8-foot-tall god chained to a wall. You know, because she just kind of feels like it. She is transformed as she towers over you, leaving you to feel insignificant and broken in her presence. Her mere power radiated within the room as all you can do is feel powerless. She commands you and forces you to your knees. A god in her own right, she would be nearly impossible to defy, but only nearly. You have your blade and try to stand up and shut her out, but she becomes completely oppressing. You have only one chance to show this false god you will not submit to her. To show her you will always defy her wish to the end, as you cut your own throat open with a clean slice. You now awake at the bottom of a mountain, as you're waiting at the bottom for changes to arrive. The voices argue in your head, the paranoia and broken part of you, the heroic side, all arguing as you stand there debating your actions and what's going on, before you feel the ground shake. The trees move and the earth shifts as a mass emerges from the cabin. The princess is now something more, something greater. While previously she was a tower of pure power, the strength of a giant now stands before you as she has changed to something more. She has become a more apotheosized version of herself. She has become a true godlike entity, or at least as close as she can get to one. The dagger lands beside you, but you know fighting this is pointless, so you embrace your new goddess. And as the narrator senses the end, his voice goes silent as you fill your seat beside her. She then tries to claw her way out of this confining cage of shifting shadows. And as she begins to tear and rip away at this shadow and fabric, you feel unimaginable pain. Every single rip, every single tear sets your insides ablaze as you feel all of it. And in a moment of desperation, well, you lash out. The shadows go dark. The pain stops. As you open your eyes again to try to look around and see what's going on, you see that the shadows have impaled her. As she stands there looking sad and longingly at you, you watch as she too is taken by the shifting mound. She will make for a brand new heart. One of the last options I'd like to talk about is one that you've always had, a choice you can always make at anywhere in the story. However, it will lead to a different ending if you do it at the start. A choice that leads you more to a lot of the main lore, at least in my opinion, to look at the cabin and say, screw that, it's not my problem, and it's someone else's to deal with. As you consistently do this, in defiance of the narrator, you learn that there's an infinite amount of cabins, all in the same hill, all on the same place, all in the same shape, all with the same path that led you here. Reality shatters and breaks. With every cabin, there's a new possible reality. And with every new possibility that can form, it can't be held, and reality breaks and shatters before eventually you die, leading you to the stranger. The vast forest that you were once in now is completely walled off and isolated, as you now only have one path forward. As you enter the cavern, you fight the voices in your head, as you can see an amalgamation of a cabin with parts and pieces of many other endings, all shifting together into one, thrown together like a bad puzzle. The walls are mixed and matched, as if reality no longer matches with one another, and as if all of reality is spiraling to a singular finite point. And it only worsens as you enter the stairwell, as before you sits a vast empty twist and turning stairs, all leading in random directions. But before you choose between the three paths, of one on the left, one in the middle, and one on the right. So obviously you choose the middle path. I mean, what else would you do? I mean, clearly it's the best option. And as you descend down the staircase, it breaks and branches, with many stairs coming off of what you believe to be the single middle path that you were following. As it begins twisting and turning in untold directions, it makes your head spin. Spirals form as you lose your sense of reality and self. Fractures upon fractures of fate and choice weave themselves across the distant void, before eventually everything...
Can I help you?
You're there. The princess is now before you, chained to the wall and in darkness. You ask one simple question.
Princess, You can call me Princess, if you'd like.
And she breaks, fracturing off into another personality from one of the many roots you've seen. Another question.
I don't remember what it was like before I was in this place. Why would I know what happened to you?
Another fracture.
We're probably stuck down here forever, aren't we? There's no way out, and barely a way in. Sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled apart too. It's so terrifying down here. But at least now you're not alone. And I'm not alone either.
And on and on and on until there are no options left. And you must be doing everything all at once. As you lunge forward, your reality breaks and shifts and morphs, fading as you feel what is left between you and the princess now shifting and becoming something new. She has become all of herself, all at once molded into something strange, a new body, a new life of death, of fiction and anger, of betrayal and hatred, of love and compassion. Forever made of action and reaction, of choice and falsity, of reality and unreality. She has become something true. She has changed into something similar before she too is taken by the shifting mound. The fifth shifting mound is now gone, as with the fifth vessel you bring her is now the last, as she begins to evolve into her true form, as you witness her true self, and the multiple versions that have led you here. This is the end of the game. Alright, so now that you've been all caught up in the lore-heavy princesses and what I believe is important, you can now fully understand what this game and its general themes are about, or at least what I believe they're about, as these are from my own understanding and my own theories. You are more than welcome to disagree with me, and honestly this game can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So with that being said, let's discuss what we know. First, you and the princess are likely both gods, with the princess being the goddess of change and death, and you being the god of reality and choice, known as the Long Quiet. The both of you were created by the narrator, who I'll call the original god, or Echo. The original god had decided the best way to manage his creation/world was to split himself, creating both the Shifting Mound and the Long Quiet to help manage his children and guide them into a better way. However, the two began to fight, and with that war, and this war was devastating, destroying not only the world, but a majority of all life in the universe as well. The original god knew that he couldn't allow this war to continue, as it may very well destroy alternate universes and his other creations. So, as much as he tried, he couldn't unmake them, so he had to contain them. And he knew the only way to do that was to trap both of them and entomb them within a reality that the Long Quiet believes is real. However, as their war began to die down, and as this narrator began to scheme and plan, the Long Quiet and the Shifting Mound began to feel something different. They began to feel something more. The hatred that they once had for each other had begun to shift and change. It began to take on passion and love. They began to care deeply for one another, as they began to try to slowly understand that their enemies were no longer each other, but instead their creator. As with that though, the narrator, now fully ready to enact his plan, decided that with a single move, he would shatter and break both the Shifting Mound and the Long Quiet. What he did was he made the Long Quiet shift into an internal prison of fabric and shadow, made up of their very flesh, as he then cast the different remaining perspectives and broken shards of all of them, of the Shifting Mound and the Long Quiet, into the shifting, never-ending quiet and void that this prison was made for. However, in so doing, the original god used up all of his power, and as he did that, well, simply put, he felt himself dying. He knew he didn't have much longer left, and his power was fading. So in order to make sure that he could watch over this eternal prison, at least in some degree, he created the narrator. The narrator was then made to help convince you upon your journey to try to take out the Shifting Mound, to try to kill her and permanently guide you into making sure that there was only one god to watch over this world. So, with this, the Echo would sit there and watch, being unable to be a part of whenever the world reset by the Long Quiet's reality, as the Long Quiet believed that the narrator was part of himself, when he wasn't. And since he could not change the narrator because it wasn't part of himself and his reality, well, the Echo would just partially understand and remember, knowing full well that there are resets probably going on, but being unable to stop it. So he tried to keep the Long Quiet on track no matter what reality or no matter what loop we saw. And so the first loop was created. With this time passing over and over again, the Long Quiet endlessly repeating the path and choices they were fated to make over and over again until eventually forgetting. As reality is warped over and over again, the godhood that the Long Quiet still had control over, the reality of his cage, for simply put, the Long Quiet justifying its existence with the premise of, I think, therefore it is. Simply put, because I know that was complicated, the idea behind this is that the Long Quiet had made a cage, and in this cage it had complete control over everything except the narrator, for it could not change the original god. So with that, it would then alter and change reality over and over again based on its beliefs and choices. These choices would affect not only the princess and yourself, but would also let you remember different ideas and perspectives, all while reliving trying to kill her or save her over and over again, as time passes endlessly and endlessly and endlessly until eventually we get to the point in the game. Now, we don't know how many loops had passed by the time that the point in the game takes place, but we know it's been long enough that the Echo himself has begun to fade, and his power is significantly less than what it once was, as itself it's just an endless loop. And while this loop is endless, sound within the loop is not, and is finite. As the Echo fades away, you begin to see what we see in the game, as things begin to change. As time passes over and over again, the Long Quiet with each loop, without realizing, puts the shifting mound back together again with nothingness, and each time the princess is killed with a small voice in the back of their mind, understanding that they have to take control and reset the loop. With each loop reset, the shifting mound is remade and reshaped. At first, it's just an atom, and then a molecule, and then the change begins to occur over and over again within the Long Quiet, as choices, like I said, begin to appear more and more. She whispers into the ear of the Long Quiet, as the shifting mound does, trying to make sure that they understand that this reality isn't real, and that they can let us go, to be free, to step into a different realm, to finally make choices their own. This specifically can be seen in the fact that all choices are highlighted within the background of the Long Quiet, with the shifting mound's influence, aka the stuff that's been grayed out. She tries to push you onto a path that she knows will free you and give her a new perspective, so she can gain more knowledge to help free you further. The player is now in control of the godhood that the Long Quiet has. You are the true change that the shifting mound had created and tried to whisper within and form within the Long Quiet. You, the player, make and form what this world will become. You are the one who influences reality and choice, for it was always you. Because of that, it is my personal belief that the true ending of the game is the one where, after you argue with the shifting mound, a voice returns to you. A single voice. The voice of the hero now becomes your hero, as he takes you to the center of the shifting mound as you talk to her true self.
No. I feel like I'm myself again. Honestly, me neither. Do you know where this cabin is? Because I don't. I don't even know what's supposed to be outside other than us. What would even happen if we leave? What would that even mean? I want that too.
I think I'm gonna stay right here. Whatever you're doing right now, wherever you're going, it feels like it's for just the two of you. Yeah, I'm not sure I'll be alone for too long anyways. The others are still around here somewhere. I'll find them.
This is it. I have no idea what it's gonna be like out there. Not that I'm scared or anything. It's exciting, really. Anything could happen. And if it's bad, then it won't be bad. Not with you. I love you too. But I'm trying not to be sappy about it. Don't make me get all emotional.
She asks that I tell you to remember her. You won't.
You're on a path in the woods, and at the end of that path is a cabin. And in the basement of that cabin is a princess. You're here to slay her. If you don't, it will be the end of the world.
Who's there? And there you are.
Are you here to kill me or something? Are you scared of me?
Because you should be.
And I vote on the native black. We're coming to die together.
Well, kneel.
I'm ready for witness now.
If you're sorry, then you'll stand
He wants us to kill each other.
Yes, finally! This is the hole I felt in my heart!
I'm going to burn too. And then we won't hurt anyone. You're trying to make it up to me.
It's not this way to take my job.
Finally leaving here together, aren't we? And all we had to do was trust each other. It wasn't easy, but I'm glad we finally could. She asks that I tell you to remember her. You won't.
One thing I'd also like to add here is one of the many themes that consist within Slay the Princess. Slay the Princess is a fascinating game that explores a lot of different philosophies and ideas. But one of the main things that helps it just tell its story is the idea of themes and abuse in relationships and how toxic things can be, and how until someone's the greater person and steps up, this abuse and cycle will never end. This can be seen a lot throughout the different endings of the game, as you could see that a lot of the times you'll either simply put hurt each other until eventually one of you decides to take that final step. And that hatred that you had, that disdain as the cycle continued over and over again, falls away, and you turn to something different, something more. As with all things, eventually it ends, and it's beautiful in the way that it ends. I mean, how else would it? And with that, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching my video, and I appreciate you for sticking around this long and seeing my own different takes and ideas on this magnificent game. And to Black Tabby Games, if you're watching this, I want you to know that please understand that when I played this game for the first time, it was absolutely life-changing. And I don't mean that as a joke, as I say this when I was going through a really hard time in my own life, dealing with some of my own relationship trauma, of an abusive relationship that just wasn't fun. So simply put, this game helps enlighten that experience and teach me something more, how to be better and how to move on. It was a very worthwhile experience and helped me just learn a lot about myself. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.